Hi, and welcome to Politics Now. I'm Mark Skonecki. Today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We've got a look at UCF discussing intolerance, the widening investigation into the actions of U.S. Rep. Alan Grayson, and we're also going to talk about Florida legalizing shacking up. And we'll have our usual features with Kayla O'Brien talking to social media and Scott Maxwell talking about the winners and losers of the week. But first, let's do the headlines. In Wisconsin, Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders scored impressive primary victories over their opponents, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer and Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs are set to discuss on Friday what to do with this huge windfall in the tourist tax that is coming. And finally, U.S. Senate candidate Carlos Baruf has launched the first statewide ad in his bid for the nomination for the Senate, replacing Marco Rubio. Okay, let's talk about what's been going on at UCF. I have with me today education reporter Gab Russin. There was a forum yesterday, and they were talking about politics and tolerance. Let's first look at what the organizer of the forum had to say about it.
On intolerance and exclusion at UCF. Well, just in the last year or so, we've had a number of incidents on campus that have bothered people. One is we had some anti-Semitic stickers appear on campus, swastikas, things like that. We've also had, well, a rally on campus by a political candidate who's known for inflammatory statements. And then beyond that, we have just complaints from students and faculty about the lived experience day to day and whether they feel valued on the institution and accepted and so on. So we want to be able to discuss our actual experiences here. We also want to be able to discuss what we might imagine as a more inclusive, socially just, equitable institution. What I would like people to take away here is that the university should play a central role in shaping discourses about race in America. What we're seeing right now is, much greater manifestation of racism in the society because of the political discourse.
So we're back. So Gabby, tell us a little bit more about what brought this on.
Well, at the end of last year, late last year, there were a couple things that happened on campus. There were some anti-Semitic stickers and flyers that were posted around campus. There was a Facebook page, the UCF White Student Union Group, that was promoting kind of a white culture that concerns some people. But for some UCF faculty, the culmination was Donald Trump coming to speak at the school in March.
So were they suggesting that Trump should not have been on campus for his rally? Or?
Not necessarily. They were just upset that they hadn't been asked what they thought of it. They hadn't gotten a chance to give any feedback to the university. They said at UCF they have a very diverse group of students. What did the students think about Trump coming? Nobody asked them. They weren't giving enough time to kind of have a counter message to Trump coming either. That was another issue they brought up yesterday.
And so what did the university say specifically about the Trump rally?
The UCF said, we have presidential candidates come all the time, and we're a public university. We promote freedom of speech, even though we may not necessarily agree with the message.
That makes sense. Well, it's going to heat up even more as the campaign goes along. Thanks a lot, Gabby. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
The next thing we're going to talk about now is the Alan Grayson probe. An investigative committee of the House yesterday said that there is substantial reason to believe that Representative Grayson, a fiery Democrat from here in Orlando, may have violated ethics rules and federal law while in office, some of it relating to his hedge fund and some of it relating to some of his work as a lawyer. With me now is politics reporter Steve Lemongello to talk about that case. So Steve, what's going on with this?
Well, sure. The Office of Congressional Ethics, a nonpartisan independent group panel in Washington, they took a look at the Grayson situation. At first, they were just looking at the Grayson Fund, his offshore hedge fund. but they also found substantial reason to believe, quote unquote, for 6 different things: that he used the name of his profited from his hedge fund, that he continued to profit from legal proceedings after he was elected, that he omitted required information from his financial disclosure statements, and even one that he used like staff members and official resources in his congressional office to actually run the hedge fund.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, what does Representative Grayson have to say about all this?
Well, Grayson has denied everything. He says he has not done anything wrong. He says the only investors to his hedge fund are close personal friends. He also calls the allegations utterly frivolous, and he also mocked the term reason to believe.
Yeah. Now, this complicates things because Grayson is running for the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
He's got a heated Democratic rival in Patrick Murphy. Tell me what Murphy said and tell me about how this might move forward.
Well, sure. After, I guess, not responding on Tuesday after this came out, Murphy, I guess, whose people got a chance to look at everything, he said yesterday that Grayson was disqualified from public service. He did not outright say that he should quit immediately, but he did say that that's quote-unquote up to Grayson. So the primary is still August 30th, still a lot of time going on there.
And there's going to be a lot more War of the Worlds in this one, definitely. Yes. All right, thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate it. We're moving on now to our fun segment. Kayla O'Brien is here to talk to us a little bit about the stuff that's going on with social media. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. You?
I love this segment. Great. We couldn't start with our presidential candidates right away because there's something local that's been happening and everyone has been talking about it, especially on Facebook right here. So this is a freeze frame. We have the full video on OrlandoSentinel.com, so go and watch it. However, there is some offensive language, so beware. But basically, Governor Rick Scott was inside of a Starbucks restaurant ordering. He came with his entourage, which he usually travels with, and a woman right over here who turns out to be an activist. She saw him and said, "This is my opportunity to tell him what I think," and she let him have it. I mean, she brought up health care. Rick Scott obviously, of course, brought up jobs, and that he brought a lot of jobs into the state, and she said, "I don't care about jobs. No one here cares about that." So it got pretty interesting, and some of his staff tried to talk to her. You see, I think that's his assistant over there, tried to kind of calm her down. They were not having it. She said, "No, I'm going to continue on this." So as he was walking out, he didn't get his latte. She said, "Shame on you, Rick Scott, shame on you." So it's a really interesting video. Someone kind of saw the situation happening and then said, "I'm going to record this and go viral," and it did.
Sure enough, it did.
So, and that was in Gainesville where this happened.
Okay.
So interesting. So I think he was just trying to go into a Starbucks. I'm one of the people. He could have easily sent his staff to get it, but I think he wanted to, be a part of the community, and that's kind of the risk that you take when you go and do something like that.
Definitely.
So let's go to our presidential candidates, my favorite part. So here's a Twitter video. It's Throwback Thursday. This is Hillary Clinton talking about minimum wage increasing back in, I think, 95. So, yep, 95. So she's talking about the same issues that she's talking about in her presidential speeches today or her candidacy speeches. And it really shows that she has not differed on at least this issue. So, I mean, that's a pretty good thing to show, and she's got tons of footage like this, so I think we're going to start seeing more and more of her old videos coming true because it shows that she's got experience.
And I really like social media for this because you can hit back right away if someone accuses you of doing something and you've got video to rebut it, you can just put it right up.
Yeah, I'm not a flip-flopper. Look at this, 95. That's like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, so it's interesting. We're going to see a lot more of that, I believe.
I agree.
Over here is Bernie Sanders. This is on his Twitter page. So we got actor Mark Ruffalo. I believe he's an actor. I'm not really familiar with him, but this is called the Revolution, but Love in capital. So Bernie Sanders is bringing in celebrities, kind of the millennial appeal once again. Just a really casual interaction. They're talking about statistics and why they're voting for Bernie Sanders and to lead the revolution. So I think we're going to start seeing that hashtag more and more as Bernie, ramps up his campaign. So more celebrities too, and I've seen a lot on his Twitter page are very supportive of Bernie. John Kasich's got a new video too. This was only posted an hour ago, so we're really getting to the final.
Breaking news.
Exactly, breaking news right here. So he's talking about New York, and that's a campaign or an election coming up soon. And he's using Ted Cruz's words against him. So Ted Cruz, in his speech, said, the values of New Yorkers are not the values of my state, or not the values of the most of America. So John Kasich is saying, I don't agree with that. Don't vote for Ted Cruz because I think New Yorkers are just fine, and here's the reasons why. So it's interesting. He's really, honing in on that one state. And then let's see who else we got up here. Okay, this is Trump. Now I think this is a very, very interesting video. So I'll play it for you. It shows Trump in pictures and videos with minority races only. So you see him, people supporting him that are minorities, him hugging minorities, kind of to show, because he's been accused of being a hater basically on minorities and minority groups. So this is his attack video on that, saying, look, you know, this minority likes me, these people are supporting me, you know, I'm proving you wrong right now. So I've never seen anything like this so blatant, because there's not, every single shot is the same. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think this is probably benefits him, because a lot of people think there's not one minority in the country that supports Trump, and he's disproving that right here. So it's interesting.
Yeah, well, kind of like, again, with social media, you can fire back real quickly, so that's good.
And it's got the dramatic music in the background, but it kind of keeps going on and on, showing that he doesn't say anything, but he's just showing you in pictures like, well, you were wrong, because people do support me. And then finally, we got another, this is from Ted Cruz's Instagram, and it's a little play on Me, Myself, and Irene, that famous movie that Jim Carrey was in. And he's got a split personality, and he's crazy in the movie. So he's showing Donald Trump with the little movie poster kind of mock-up, and it's showing like, you know, choose Cruz, and Donald Trump thinks he's capable of changing everything by himself, and that he's actually crazy for thinking that, and it's not going to happen. So he's dedicating some space on his Instagram page to his biggest opponent is Donald Trump.
Yet another social media spot where you can get
Exactly.
things done. Definitely. Well, cool. I'm looking forward to next week. Thanks a lot,
Me
Kayla.
too.
I appreciate it. And finally today we have the amazing Scott Maxwell.
Ooh, I'm amazing today.
Yes, you are. I couldn't come up with the right adjective. Amazing works for you. He's going to talk about this week's winners and losers. Go ahead, Scott.
All right. Well, yeah, you've already touched on who I think is pretty easily, at least in my estimation, the big loser for this week, and that is Alan Grayson. The House Ethics Committee, as you said, found substantial reason to believe that he violated really all kinds of rules and regulations. The centers around, a lot of it started with a hedge fund based in the Cayman Islands. I'm going to submit that anytime you even say I'm running a hedge fund based in the Cayman Islands, that's not a good thing for a campaign. Accusations that he used his name to promote the fund. I have long said that I thought this was a problem. Alan Grayson probably doesn't really give a flip what I say, but he's going to have to deal with the House Ethics Commission. And right now, that's going to probably dog him for a long time, and his opponents will be able to use it against him, and I'll say legitimately so. So that makes him this week's losers. For our winners, we've got two groups of people this week. We're going two winners. One is poor people. So if you happen to be a poor person watching politics now, I'm talking to you, especially if you're a child under the age of 5, because I know that's one of our big demos here on Politics Now. And that is because poor folks, actually pediatricians on behalf who support poor folks, sued the state of Florida more than a decade ago, 11 years ago, saying that this state doesn't do enough to take care of poor, to take care of its poor. This is something every state has to do. There are federal rules about it, but the state didn't reimburse doctors at any rate that was even remotely close to encouraging them to do it. So they basically sued. It took a decade, and just this week there was, I guess, a settlement was reached where they have to serve more of them. So poor kids have a better access to health care as a result of that. And the other people, Mark, I don't know if this will excite you much, who are big winners is people who want to shack up without getting married.
Hey, I'm married. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if you want to, Rick Scott now gives you his blessing. This law dates back to the Civil War times, I think I'm right in this. We're talking 150 years ago. Florida said that it was not okay to live with somebody to whom you weren't married. It was probably not okay for women to show their hair or do things like that at that point in time. Somehow this law stayed on the book, and I think you know there were actually legislators who, as recently as last year, wanted it to stay on the books. But it finally got removed. So if you want to shack up, have Rick Scott's blessing, and you don't have to get hitched. So there you go. Those folks are winners.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of which, we've got kind of a light-hearted look at the new shacking up law. Jordan Crumbine provides this report.
Jordan Crumbine here for Orlando Sentinel, and big news, Rick Scott has made it legal for unmarried couples in the state of Florida to live together. There's a lot happening here, so let's break it down in something I like to call the Brickdown with Jordan Crumbine. The shocking news is that Florida actually had a 148-year-old law that made it illegal for opposite-sex couples to live together. The law stated if an unmarried man and woman, you know it's a female because she's bigger and meaner, lewdly and lasciviously associate and cohabit together, they shall be guilty of a second-degree misdemeanor. Lewd and lascivious being legalese for doing it. Because of that man and woman language, this wasn't legal unless you were married. But this was, and so was this, and whatever this was, it was probably legal too. There are only 2 other states that make it illegal to shack up with your special someone. In Florida, the bill to rectify this was passed nearly unanimously with only 5 dissenting votes, one of which was Representative Jennifer Sullivan of Mount Dora, and you can find her contact info at myfloridahouse.gov. That's the breakdown. For Orlando Sentinel, I'm Jordan Crumbine. See you next time.